And we are live. Let's get it. Let's get it. Let's go. I'm super excited because today we get to talk all about book marketing. We got to talk about building your empire from a book. And we get to talk to somebody who is as legit as they come. And so I'm going to introduce our esteemed guest today. Honorée Corder is an empire builder with more than a dozen 6- and 7-figure income streams. She's executive and strategic book coach, TEDx speaker, and author of more than 50 books, including You Must Write a Book, with over 4 million books sold worldwide. Honorée passionately mentors aspiring empire builders, coaching them to write, publish, and monetize their books, create a platform, and develop multiple streams of income. Find out more at honoreecorder.com. All right, welcome to the Big Idea to Bestseller podcast.
I'm so excited to be with you, Jake. I'm so looking forward to this conversation. Thank you for hosting me.
Me as well. I know when we first had our first intro chat a while back to get to know each other a little bit, I was just like, who are you? You know, where did you come from? Because you have done some amazing things in the self-publishing space. You've done some amazing things in the book industry as a whole, and you've built what everyone wants to build, which is sales and impact. So talk to us about how you kind of got to where you're at today. I'd love kind of like the key points of your career journey in the book space.
Sure. Well, the short answer is, and I'll give you those benchmarks, but the short answer is 20,000 days that start at 4:30 in the morning. I think there's a misperception that you just arrive one day and it's similar to microwave popcorn or instant coffee, right? And that really is not the journey. So just for all intents and purposes, just to say, if you're grinding away, if you're working day in and day out, it will pay off. It does pay off. And you wake up one day and go, hey, this is really cool, all these things that I've created, but it does require day in and day out effort. So just to say that. My self-publishing journey started when I was coaching. I was doing business and executive coaching, and I was doing corporate training, and I met Mark Victor Hansen. This is a pivotal moment in my journey. He came up to me and I said, your presentation was amazing. And he said, who are you? And I said, I'm Honorée. And he said, what do you do? And I said, I'm a coach and a speaker. And I did a little hair flip. And he was like, that's nice, honey. Everybody's a coach and a speaker. You must write a book. And I thought to myself in that moment, gee, what could possibly go wrong? Right. But I took his advice. I had a little bit more of a conversation with him and I asked him some practical questions. You know, what kind of book should I write? How do I get it out on paper? Give me some ideas. And he gave me some tangible book writing and marketing tactics and strategies that I use to this day. Very short conversation. And it was in that moment, like time slowed down and I was able to really zone in and listen to him. And I went home from that conference and I sat for 3 days and wrote my book. I just literally sat in a chair and then I couldn't look at it, but I hired a book coach and I sent him the manuscript. And I won't say who he is because he's a kind of well-known guy, but I sent him the manuscript and we had a coaching session scheduled and we got on the phone and his voice went up 3 octaves. He was like, wow, it's actually pretty good. And I was like, well, you don't have to act so surprised. Right? And I keep that in my mind when someone asks me to look at their work. I keep in mind that a lot of people are like wanting that seal of approval and wanting that encouragement. And I was really glad that he liked it, but because if he hadn't, we may not be having this conversation today. So I went on to publish that book. And one of the things that Mark had told me was do 7 things every day to market your book. So even before my book was coming out, I was doing the things that in 2004, 2005, one would do to market their book, traditional media, getting in the local newspaper, things like that, which there was really no LinkedIn, no Facebook, no Twitter, no TikTok, right? Like those people who invented those weren't even born yet, right? Like, so maybe not really, but you get my point. And so I made a list of the 7 things and I did exactly what those 7 things were every day. And so it is no surprise that I began selling books and selling a lot of books because I looked at it like my book was an asset that I could sell and that I was going to stay in the game and sell it. So I sold 11,000 copies of that first book in 3 weeks, actually, while I was waiting for the first copies to arrive. Thankfully, when they arrived, they weren't terrible, because I had sold 11,000 copies. I would have been in trouble if that had gone another way. Nevertheless, that started me on my self-publishing journey, but it was a few years before I got the itch and the idea to write another book. And then since 2009, I've been pretty consistent with publishing, which is another secret, right? If there is such a thing, that's a secret to success, is consistency. And a book marketing tactic that everybody wants to know, and don't hate the messenger, is, the best way to market a book is to release a new book, because then you have the current book to read, and then you go, oh, I like this author, I'm going to go see what else they have. And you go read their other books. So I was on my publishing journey and publishing books and still coaching and speaking. And then I thought I would really just like to write and publish books. And I'd like to help people write and publish books. And in those years, I met Hal Elrod, and we did the first dozen books plus ancillary workbooks and things like that. In the Miracle Morning series, we co-created those first dozen, main books. And then I started helping other authors to write, publish, and most importantly, monetize their books, optimize their books, which is creating the author-reader relationship, and monetizing, which is selling the book, and then also turning the contents of that book and the author's other expertise, experience, knowledge, education into other income streams. And that's really my bailiwick. That's my jam. That's what I love to do every day.
That's amazing.
It is. It's really fun. I actually have a ball, right? I wake up every day and go, okay, still real, still doing it.
So, all right, I want to break this down a little bit, because I think that there are a couple key things that really stood out to me. One was making sure that you connected with the right people and asked the right questions. Yep. 2 was you listened to what people who have done what you aim to do, and you did the thing they said to do.
Correct.
And the third thing is, and you even took a second to mention this, is consistency. And I believe that if we do anything in enough amount of times over a long enough period of time, you will get the compounded result of that single action at a certain moment in time.
That's correct.
And so you mentioned that you sold 11,000 books in 3 weeks. I believe that was the time frame. Yes. Let's talk about this for a second here. You're a new author, okay? You had a conversation and Mark told you what to do. 7 things every day to market your book. You were doing everything. How did you sell 11,000 copies in 3 weeks? Because most people will never sell 11,000 copies of their book over the lifetime, let alone in 3 weeks. And I think that this is so powerful, because this was your first book. It wasn't like you knew every industry secret at this point.
No industry
for a long time. So tell me, like, what was your approach? What were the asks that you made of others? Who did you ask, and what did you ask for? Like, I'd love to know a little bit more about that, because I'm sure you use those tactics today as well to help authors.
I do. And so let me first say that because I did it, anyone listening can do it, right? So if there's any doubt in your mind, well, Honorée did it because she's tall, old, whatever, right? From Ohio, right? None of those things qualify me more. And I certainly had none of the knowledge and experience that I have today. I was borrowing knowledge and experience from Mark and Jack Canfield, and I was putting into practical action. So what did I do? I listened when Mark said, ask people to buy between 10 and 100 copies at a time. So I can sell you one book, Jake, but I can also say, do you know 10 aspiring authors? How about you buy 10 books and give them each a copy of my book, and I'll sign the book to them. So it's a 10x ask, right? But I actually added a 0 after a while because I got tired of calling. So I said, would you buy between 100 and 1,000 books? My book at that time, the book is Tall Order, 7 Master Strategies to Organize Your Life and Double Your Success in Half the Time. That original version of that book has been republished, and now it's got a 10th anniversary edition. But that original book was for anyone in business, really. And you can't say anyone, but it was really for anyone who wanted to be successful in business, specifically salespeople. right? If you want to get organized, get results, it's mindset and practical actions. So I asked, to your point, my clients, my contacts, anyone in my Rolodex, and there's a term for those of you who don't know what a Rolodex is, consult the Google, right? It's the names in your phone, right? Now, but I went through my Rolodex and I literally had one of those big Rolodexes on my desk, and it was like a card for Jake. Well, let me call Jake. Jake, how are you? And I would say, you know, what's new and exciting? What are you up to? How are things? Is there anything I can do to help you? And the law of reciprocity applied. There is a strategy within that strategy, which is I didn't call anyone that I didn't already have a great relationship with and ask them to buy between 100 and 1,000 copies of my book. I only called people that I had relationships with. And the very first thing that I did in that phone call was to ask them what they needed. How are you? How can I help you? Is there anything that you need? My favorite question to ask is, what do you need next most? If I could solve any problem for you, what's the next most important thing that I could do for you? So I would have that conversation with them, and then they would say, what's new with you, Honorée? And I would say, oh, I have a new book coming out and I'm really excited about it. And they would say, tell me about your book. And being an author is still as cool today as it was back then. Back then, though, I was a brand new, like I had just the proof copy of my book that the printer sent me. And so I was super, you know, ebullient about the situation, and it conveyed. And that's another strategy, which is to be enthusiastic about your book and be ready to take no for an answer, but ask for the yes. And so I would say, I know you have a sales team. This book is great for salespeople. I know you have 4,000 people that are in middle management and sales in your company. Would you like to buy between 100 and 1,000 copies? The way I got to 11,000 copies was 10 copies, 25 copies, 50 copies, 100 copies, 1,000 copies at a time. And I even had someone order 3,000 copies because he happened to have a large sales team. He was having a convention and he said, why don't you send me 3,000 copies? And I said, why don't I? That's a fantastic idea. And so all I did was connect with people, try to solve a problem that they had, connect with them on a person-to-person level. Not, Jake, we haven't talked since 1975, but now I want you to buy something for me. That irritates me, right? It does not encourage me to do something for someone. So I always assume the same. And then I said, would you like to buy between 10 and 100 copies or 100 and 1,000 copies? And then, of course, this was 2004. So in 2004, what every office had in it was a fax machine. And I would email an order form. People would fill it out and my fax machine was going off and I would get the orders. And then if the orders were small enough, I would get those books and package them up and send them. And if the orders were large enough, I would call my printing company and say, send 500 books to Jake. Right? And I would never see the books. And so that was the beginning of me getting out of my own way. I did not know that the average book sells 250 to 500 copies in its lifetime. I didn't know that self-published authors were supposed to wear a scarlet letter and walk around with a bag on their head. I didn't have any head noise. I didn't have any imposter syndrome. I listened to what Jack told me to do and what Mark told me to do. And I took massive action, which is a Tony Robbins-ism, right? And I got massive results.
I love it. I love it. It's really cool how you were able to take the book, build it for the right people, leverage the audience that you already had and the people that were already in your network to buy a book that was for the audience that you already had and that you wanted to get in front of more of. And this is something that's really important. If your book wouldn't have been about the topic that your network could purchase from, it would have been almost impossible to sell that many copies. But because you solved the problem for the people that you knew and what they needed, it made it much easier. And I think sometimes authors, especially first-time authors, they're trying to figure out, what should I write this book about? And that becomes a very dangerous thing when you've turned the attention to the marketing of what happens when the book's actually here, right? And how do you do that? So this is really cool. You sell 11,000 copies in 3 weeks. You start your incredible journey as an author. You're doing amazing things. And then you come across several years later, a guy named Hal. And you guys create something that almost every person at least that I know, who's in the entrepreneurial world, has heard of or knows of the book. So how did you create a partnership with Hal? And
Sure.
how did that turn into dozens of books together and a whole series and a whole, like, literally a whole world changing initiative essentially, but it started with a book, right? So how did that come to be?
Right. So the short answer is always one book at a time, one day at a time, 1 minute at a time. The bigger picture answer I think that everybody wants is Hal had a vision. Hal had a book, and Hal had a vision and a passion to change the world. So a lot of times people just go, I want to write a book to make more money. I want a book for me. And ultimately Hal is not about himself. He's about changing the world one morning at a time. How we connected was I read his book, and just before I read his book, I realized what I wanted as an author. And this is a global life strategy here, right? If you realize that you want something and you don't have it, you're probably not giving it away. So I wanted honest 5-star reviews on Amazon, Jake. That's what all authors want. And so I determined that not only did I want that, but also I wasn't giving it. I'm a prolific reader. I've read almost 100 books so far this year, August of 2022, right? August, September of 2022. I've read almost 100 books just this year alone. And I have taken the time to rate and review every single one that I could say something nice about, right? And I realized I wasn't doing that. So how can I expect someone to do that for me if I'm not doing that in the world? So that was a life-changing decision, really, because the next book I read was The Miracle Morning. I left a review. Hal saw my review. He saw that I already had a book series. So I had the Successful Single Mom book series, which has 6 books in the series. It in and of itself is its own empire. It's a book, a transformation program, a certification for facilitators. It is its own sub-empire in my empire. So he saw my review and saw that I was author of the Successful Single Mom book series. And he said, do you want to do the Miracle Morning for single moms? And I thought to myself, no. But for some reason, and I think it's one of those things where you just say, just have a conversation. What's the worst that can happen? Right? It could be the best conversation I've ever had. It could be something, it could be nothing. Have the conversation. So in that conversation, he said, you have a series. I want a series. You're the person I've been looking for. Let's partner. So we created a partnership, and we did one book, and then another book, and then another book. And so that's really how all of that came to be, was with every book, we were learning new things about publishing, about self-publishing, and then Hal was diagnosed with cancer, and there were books in the pipeline. And so I think what any partner would do, what I did as a partner, is to say, you take care of you, I'll take care of the book series. And so I kept that going so that he could focus on his healing, and the brand that he had built allowed him the opportunity to rest, right? To rest and recover, because it has so much momentum. And when you do all of the things, and there has to be some divine intervention, right? When you have something as magical as the Miracle Morning, as miraculous as the Miracle Morning, there's some divine intervention there. But also, Hal didn't just put out a book and hope that it was going to be successful. He also was the engine behind the brand. So there were a lot of factors in there that I think people miss. I had someone ask me yesterday, like, what's the difference between Hal and other authors, or you and other authors? And I say it's, you got to be on stages, you got to be on podcasts, you have to be talking to readers, getting your book out in front of people. So there are a lot of factors in there, but it really comes down to consistent, persistent, intentional action.
Yeah, this is so good. And we're talking about just a couple of the most amazing moments in your journey that have led you to this point. But what I want everyone who's listening to understand here is this: everything is a result of the action you've taken, because you've gone after the things that you've wanted. And by doing so, you've been able to create unique opportunities by doing maybe things that other people aren't aware of, or that even if they're aware of, they aren't going to do. So you talking about leaving reviews for other people, I mean, this is as simple as just give more value, right?
Yeah.
And that strategy right there alone And I was just talking about this with someone the other day. That strategy alone can get tons of eyeballs onto you, right? When you leave a review for someone on Amazon, you could do video reviews and you could do regular reviews. If you do it right, you can be seen by everybody who goes to that page. And if that's a very popular book, now every time someone looks at the reviews, they're going to see your name and your thing. And what do people do when they see a testimonial? They click on the person who gave the testimonial to see what they're all about. Look at this, guys. This is why she's a marketing genius. All right. This is why you have these empires from your book, is you're doing things that you know are going to get you the result at some point. You don't know when it's going to produce the result,
right,
but you're going to show up over and over again. And so as you evolve and as time evolves and as the years evolve and as technology evolves, how do we now in today's age write a book that can grow an empire on the back end of it? And I know this is an absolutely loaded question, but let's
I have an answer.
Yes,
I have an answer.
Let's start with the basics, then we're going to get super deep, you guys. So get ready for this.
I'm happy to share, because I'm actually writing You Must Market Your book right now. And I'm pulling the lens back and opening the curtain to my thought process, because I don't just want someone to go, well, Honorée did this, so I'm going to go do these things, because you're not Honorée. I'm not Hal, right? You're not Jake. And so I want to teach you how to think. And so and I was writing about this actually just today, is like, what's the thing to think about when you're putting your book marketing action plan together, your book map? And the thing that you think about is, where does the book fit into your business, and where is the book going to go? So I'm going to use an example and take people on this journey, right? Take them along the map. So where we started with You Must Write a Book is me seeing that there wasn't a quality book, one that I would want to read that would give me guidance in writing a book, what I wish I knew when I first started. So I wrote You Must Write a Book, and I started following the breadcrumbs. Now you can follow the breadcrumbs, or you can do a big vision. The choice is yours, or you can do a combination of both. I've done both. So You Must Write a Book became I Must Write My Book, which is the journal that goes with it, the companion journal. And then You Must Write a Book and I Must Write a Book became Publishing PhD, the course, because people wanted a place to take my instructions and write them down. That's the journal. But then they had all these questions that I didn't cover in the book, because the book is not a phone book. It's not 600 pages long. They had questions. So I developed the course. So You Must Write a Book, I Must Write My Book, Publishing PhD, all together. And then I was on a stage talking about those three things, and someone said, wait a minute, what's that wheel of fortune that you talk about? Because I talk about how you can take your book and you can turn it into a consulting program, a coaching program, a course, a workbook, a mastermind, right? There's all these, a dozen 6 and 7 figure income streams. Like, there's all this possibility. And so someone came up to me after, who's a thought leader, and he said, you have to do a book on income streams, because a lot of people talk about writing a book. There's a lot of great information out there, but not a lot of people are talking about how to turn the book into money, not just even selling books, but how to turn the book into money. You have to do this course. And I originally said, no, I don't. I don't know how to do a course in today's day and age with lighting and backgrounds and editing and, like a little ticker across the bottom. I was like, that's not for me. I'm not going to do it. He said, you're going to come to my office, and we're going to do it. We're going to do it together. So we did Building $1 Million Book Business. We did that course. So now we have 2 books and 2 courses. And also someone said to me, if you had a mastermind, I'd be in it. And I said, why? And they said, because you have what I want. You have an empire and I want one. And I don't want to make all the mistakes that you made. I don't want to pay the stupid tax that you've paid. I want you to just tell me there's a landmine, there's the bridge, right? There's the supersonic jet that's going to get you there. I want that guidance. So now when you look at it, it's 2 books, 2 courses, and a mastermind, soon to be 4 books, 3 courses, and a mastermind. And I don't say anything to brag, because nobody cares if I've made a bunch of money, but I've made a bunch of money from all of those assets together. And that is the answer to your question. So when you're thinking about what's the thing that I should write about, It's the thing that people already come to you and ask you about, and they give you money for that information. And then you figure out how that book is going to fit into your business. Is it to make you money directly through book sales, or is it to bring clients or customers to you? And in what other formats would someone want that information if they could buy it from you? And then you do some brainstorming. If I had it to do over again, I would say, okay, I need a book on writing a book. I need a book on marketing a book, and I need a book on building an empire. And then I need companion workbooks for all of those. And then I need a course to go with it. And then at the very bottom is a mastermind. And so I would have 3 books, 3 workbooks, 3 courses, and a mastermind, which is what I'm finishing. Does that make sense?
It makes so much sense. Now let's get tactical here. Yep. You talk about workbook, you talk about book, workbook, course. Yep. So do you think that people who are writing nonfiction books, do you think a workbook, what are the benefits of a workbook, and how do you use the workbook so that people can get to it, or that people can find it relevant to what it is that you're talking about?
Well, so You Must Write a Book has the I Must Write My Book companion workbook. And I'll just give you one example. In You Must Write a Book, I talk about the 3 different timelines you have for writing a book, and then when things have to be done. So if you want a book in 100 days, that's really fast. That's not for amateurs. But if you're going to do it, you need to know when things need to be done and the order of operations. So I give 100 days, 180 days, and 365 days. And in the workbook, I break those down. So if you're going to write and publish a book on day 100, then you have to write faster than if you're going to publish a book in 365 days. And you've got to get your editor, your proofreader, graphic designer, your copywriter, your barcodes, your KDP account, blah, 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 et cetera, and so on and so forth. You have to know when to do all of those things, who to hire, how to know they're any good, how much you're going to have to pay them, like what's your timeline. P.S. Everything that can go wrong may go wrong. Just be prepared. There's technology involved. You've got to build in some time for that. You got a cover designer. Like, they're not just going to maybe instantly come up with your cover design, especially if you're using someone great. So you got to get them as soon as possible. All of those things. And so that workbook provides a space for brainstorming ideas, writing down, who's your graphic designer? How much are you going to pay them? What's their phone number and email? When are they supposed to have it back to you? All of those types of details. And so your workbook, companion guide, companion planner, or journal, right? You've got 4 options just right there, is a place for people to have practical application of what you share in your book. They can take notes. They can jot down ideas. They can do mind maps, whatever that looks like, whatever is appropriate for you. We did the Miracle Morning for college students, and we did the Miracle Morning for college students companion planner. And then we developed the Miracle Morning companion planner. It's a 365-day planner. So if you want a planner, you have a place to write down your school schedule and your appointments and your assignments that are due. It's practical application of the advice you're giving in your book.
So good.
And the best thing is that a workbook or companion guide like that costs $10 more than the paperback. So let's say your paperback is $19.99. Your workbook is going to be $29.99. So you have a more expensive asset to sell that takes a fraction of the time to crank out, because you're creating pages with blank lines on it. Hello, right? So it's actually kind of cool. You don't get an audiobook out of it, but you get your book, your ebook, your hardcover book, and then you have your ebook and your paper book of the companion guide. Some people don't like paper. They want to buy the ebook and print the downloadables, right? So there's a whole strategy for that. But now you've gone from 3 to 5 things that can make you money just out of the same information.
Yeah. And I'm curious here, because a question that I could see someone saying is, okay, this sounds so good. You make it seem like I need to do this, right?
Yes, I do.
Do you sell all of this through a funnel on the back end? Do you have it where the actual book's on Amazon, and then you have the link in the book to then go get the companion workbook? What's your favorite way to navigate this? Because I know people are thinking, well, how do I logistically do all of this? Because a big part of marketing is just making sure the systems work. So how do you do that?
Sure. So I talk about optimization. Optimization is creating the author-reader relationship. So as soon as possible in the book, you want to be giving the reader extra value. Also, you want them to join your email list. But first and foremost, it's not about you. It's not about you and your wallet. It's about your knowledge benefiting another person. And you can't outgive the universe, right? Like the more you give, the more is going to come back to you multiplied. It's the law of giving and receiving. You happen to be giving information and you're receiving cash money for that. But as soon as possible in the book, you want to have an opt-in where you say the bonuses inside this book you can find at jake.com/book bonuses, right? Something very simple, like whatever the title of your is or whatever your URL is, I am honoree.com/you must write a book bonuses or something like that. It's shorter than that, but you understand what I'm saying. It's like the bonuses are in there. So someone can go and sign up, get the bonuses, things that don't make sense to have inside the book. My marketing plans are 15 pages long. It doesn't make sense for me to put the entire marketing plan example and the blank one inside the book. It makes sense for me to say, go download my example for this book and the blank one for you to fill in on the bonuses page. So now you're on my email list and we build a relationship. And so that autoresponder series, that's what you're talking about. When you join the list, it says, hey, I'm Honorée. I'm so glad you're here. Thank you for reading the book. Thank you for downloading the bonuses. Tell me about you. How did you discover me? Tell me about the book project, right? And then another day or two later, I'm going to say, tell me about the book project that you're writing on or your biggest question that you have. In case you're, thinking maybe you might need a place to write things down, there is a companion journal. If you'd like to get it, you can get it here.
Yeah.
I'm not ever one to beat people over the head with something. I want them to say, wow, that's just in time information for me. I was just about to say, I wonder if there's a blank, and then here you are offering it up to me. I wonder if there's a course. I wonder if there's coaching available. I wonder if there's a cohort or a group of people that are doing writing together, right? Something like, these are things I don't offer. I'm trying not to be like, I have all these things, you should buy them, right? So I'm trying to think about things that I don't have.
Of course.
Right? So like, you have to think about what's the best way for your person that you're serving to receive the information. And just at the time they would be thinking, gosh, I really need a new pair of socks because I'm training for a marathon. You go, hey, my favorite socks, like legitimately really in the world, are Thorlos. They're the best socks. I've been wearing them for 20 years. And I get mine on Zappos. Go get them, right? So I have no dog in the fight of the Thorlo socks. They're fantastic. So just when you're thinking, oh, I need that, here it is. Put yourself in the shoes of the person that you're serving and then serve up what it is that they need the way that they need it, the way that you would want it if you were reversed.
I hope that everybody is listening to this and just taking all of the notes possible because this stuff works. It's proven. Honoree's proven it. And if you want more of this good stuff, Honoree's literally has a program called Book Marketing Mastery. That is what this is all about, where she goes so deep into it. So real quick here, before we wrap up, talk to us about Book Marketing Mastery and what people could expect to learn and how they can use it to really grow their book business on the back end.
Yes, and I want to give a little bit more of a lesson if I can as well. So I did You Must Write a Book and Publishing PhD, and then I did Building $1 Million Book Business. And legitimately, it was not until this year that I realized I left, a piece of pie out of the pie, right? Which is the marketing piece, which is in the middle. And so when you're thinking about your information that you have, if you're doling it out in pieces, so publishing, marketing, monetization in multiple ways, right? Think about those pieces a little faster than I did. Right? But book marketing mastery is my answer to how do you get a book in motion? Because a book in motion is money in motion and a book at rest is money at rest. So I teach people how to, from a little bit of the pre-launch, because I cover pre-launch and launch in Publishing PhD, but I kind of pick up where that course leaves off. And actually I back up a little bit to get people set up for success. And we start with an evaluation of your book. So let's make sure that your book is set up for success. And so I did kind of a book evaluation sheet for people to fill out. And then I take them through building a book map, a book marketing action plan, and all of the aspects and all of the tools that go into creating a comprehensive book marketing action plan, and a book marketing plan that's long-term, short-term, medium-term, and then how to evaluate your strategy, how to evaluate your tactics, how to think about marketing, and most importantly, not leave the success of your book to chance. Because I think a lot of people publish a book. I know I have. Right? I know a lot of people who have, they go, I published my book and it's out there, let the royalties roll in, and then nothing happens. And it's such a bummer, right? When you don't take the time to put together a plan, and then you know what your action items are. And I think the best thing about having a great marketing plan is that you can't control what's going on in the world. You can't even control when your mail's delivered, right? You're waiting for a package. You're like, maybe it's coming at 10 in the morning. Maybe it's coming at 7 at night. We don't know. But what you can control are the actions that you're taking, right? Get on 500 podcasts. Well, I haven't sold any books. Well, go call 20 podcast hosts or send them emails, or do some reach out, do some searching, right? There are things that you can be doing that you will run out of time and daylight before you run out of things to do. And the more you do, the more you exponentially increase your levels of success, your likelihood of success. Yeah. Right? Even a broken clock is right twice a day. I appreciate you saying, using me and the word genius in the same sentence, but I don't really know that it's not just because I just keep showing up, right? I just keep plugging along. I just keep writing books. I just keep publishing books. I just keep trying things. And maybe that's why. Yeah, I think to address that last sentence that you just made, I think there is genius in being able to show up over and over again, because, when I worked with the Lakers and Kobe, and I talk about this all the time, I consider Kobe a genius on the basketball court. And guess what Kobe did? He did the same thing over and over and over again for 20 years, and he was one of the best players to ever do it. When you look at a lot of the greats, sure, talent plays a role into it, of course, and the ability to improve your skill set over time. But just as much of a role is your willingness to show up and keep showing up and keep doing it and trying and not being afraid. The minute you stop is the minute you start to lose. But if you don't stop, you can't lose. You can only learn, and you can only get better. And so I do think there's genius there. And I do think there is genius within you of how you've built your empire and how you help people. You break down these concepts that are very difficult to the untrained eye, and you make them very simple. Not easy, but you make them very simple and easier for somebody to understand, so that they can feel that they're not leaving success up to chance. So I love everything that we've talked about today. And I'd love to know, how do we connect with you? How do we learn more about book marketing mastery? What are the ways we can continue to work with you and learn from you beyond this show? Well, thank you. You could go to honoreecorder.com. Right on the front page, I give away You Must Write a Book. So you can download the You Must Write a Book for free. Obviously, you're going to be on my email list, and you're going to get the autoresponder series. And I'd love for you to tell me that you heard about me through Jake, and we can have that connection. And you can unsubscribe if you want, if you just want to get the book and roll on with your day. That's perfectly fine with me. I want you to write and publish an awesome book. Book Marketing Mastery, you can find out at honoreecorder.com/marketing. And as we wrap up here, this is exactly what you just said about what you do in your book. Keep the link short, keep it easy, and boom, it makes it flowy and easy for people to get to. So, Honorée, thank you so much for being on the show. I can't tell you how much I appreciate you sharing your gifts and your knowledge and experience with us. This is so incredible, and I know that somebody's going to be listening and be like, this is exactly what I needed. I needed this conversation to believe that it's possible, to believe that I can go make 6 and 7 figures. And that's what it's all about. So thank you so much for being on the show. My pleasure. Thank you for having me. Of course. And for everybody else, if you enjoyed this episode, make sure to go let Honorée know, get her book for free, and reply to her email and say, oh my gosh, this was the greatest episode ever. And if you really want more support on marketing your book, check her out. She's as legit as they come. She has the experience. She knows what to do. She's done it over and over again. And if you want to level up, check her out. But as always, I appreciate your time, your attention, and your energy for being here, for elevating with us, and for tuning into the podcast. So have an absolutely wonderful day, everybody, and I'll see you next time.